We help contractors by the hundreds with all of the administrative burdens that surround handling their construction projects. That means helping them with estimating, working with them on all the administration of their supplements, and doing the administrative services back office work that enables them to focus on selling, building, and billing.
We see contractors just starting off, maybe they're struggling with the fundamentals of running a construction business. They partner up with us, their process is now defined, they're able to grow their profit margins and actually scale because they're not held back with the burden of dealing with the supplementing process. I feel proud of what we've been able to do in this industry.
This is Larry Bache with the Merlin Law Group, helping policyholders for more than 30 years. If you have a claim or your client has a claim that needs help, please feel free to call the Merlin Law Group because we are the true policyholder advocate.
C3 was eager to help us, and even whenever we weren't giving them work, they were still eager to give advice. The things that they were putting out for the for changing from DMO to RFG and giving that to the industry and not charging anything for it, I thought was really cool. And that's stuff that I as a contractor appreciate. I'd recommend C3 to any contractor that's looking for a PA, especially if you're around Colorado. Great guys, man. I'm nothing but happy with the work they've done for us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Lead meteorologist Sean Choquette here for our daily 12 p.m. hail forecast, sponsored as always by Art of the Supplement and Balance Claims, Merlin Law Group, and C3 Group. You can check out all of their pages in the description below here on Facebook. I've figured out how to update the thing live again, so we're good to go. Got a lot to talk about today. We have a pretty unusual looking severe weather event just for the time of year. You know, this is what we're looking at for today is usually a severe weather setup that you see in June. But here it is, the first week of April, and we're talking about large hail possible, very large hail possible across the Great Lakes region like Chicago, over by Fort Bend, Fort Wayne, Indiana, even over by Detroit, and then even places even further east towards the East Coast along the mid-Atlantic states like the Washington, D.C. area. So a very unusual looking severe weather pattern for the next couple of days today. And then tomorrow looks like we could see some big hail as well, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And also, could Easter feature a severe weather outbreak? We're looking at the potential for some severe weather, especially in the southeast for Easter Sunday. We'll be we'll talk about that more coming up here. And finally, wash your hands, follow CDC guidelines, do all that good stuff to, you know, maximize the social distancing and everything so we can get back to normal life sooner than later. So we're going to jump right into that forecast for today. We got two areas we're looking at here, and of course one very large area with lots of colors in there, which is probably drawing your attention right away, and that is the potential for very large hail upwards of places like Detroit, Chicago, again Fort Wayne, like I said, a lot of Ohio, and even towards Pittsburgh. All could see upwards of a tennis ball or even bigger hail if things line up just right for this afternoon into this evening. The most significant area we have in the hatch, as we usually do, extends from about the Chicago metro all the way to just past Pittsburgh. And again, that main focus is going to be where you have in the red there. Moderate risk, again, for all the cities I'd mentioned, like Chicago and Detroit, etc. And then there's even a chance for some storms as far to the south and west as St. Louis this afternoon. We could see some activity making it all the way over to Washington, D.C. I almost made their risk level a moderate versus a low there. It looks like there's going to be possibly multiple rounds of storms in the mid-Atlantic states. And there's also a small area of hail possible down by Jackson, Mississippi this afternoon. That's looking more insignificant, maybe up to some $50, maybe some ping pong ball size hail. It's looking pretty underwhelming right now compared to what we're seeing for the Great Lakes region. And this is what we call a northwest flow. So you have all the instability. We have a warm, unusually warm air and unstable air across the Great Lakes region, again here early April, and The flow is coming from the northwest. Again, this is something we see usually in June or July, and not so much here in early April. But hey, whatever we might see it squeak out a 5-star map today. Will Chicago be the city? Well, it'd probably be anywhere between about 6 and 9 p.m. Your typical severe weather time frame. I think Chicago specifically could be right around that 2-inch hail size potential. I think the much more robust severe weather is going to be just to the east, maybe on the other side of Lake Michigan. But hey, looks like there could be some storms over by Chicago. So with that, you got that moderate chance of at least 1-inch hail. I think if storms do form by you, it's going to be really close to Chicago. And unless we get explosive development, I think the larger hail will be a little bit of a less chance. So I think you're a pretty good chance of seeing upwards of 1-inch hail today somewhere in the Chicago metro, and that includes even into the Indiana side of things. So Detroit, Michigan. This is an area I wasn't entirely expecting to have a city forecast for here in the first week of April, but whatever. This is what we got. Between 6 and 10 p.m. Up to tennis ball, possibly even bigger hail than that. I hedged my bets a little bit on this hail size potential. We could see upwards of baseball size hail if everything lines up just right. Some of the models that we're looking at are indicating that we have an initial batch of storms that are more isolated. That's where your big hail potential is, and quickly turning to a line. And if that happens, that keeps those hail sizes a little bit smaller. So with that, I kind of split the difference a little bit and said upwards of tennis ball size hail. Almost high chance. It's really looking like the southern section of Michigan is really going to see some big storms today. And then again, the only reason we have hedged our bets a little bit is the potential that things could evolve into a line pretty quickly. But it looks like we'll definitely see some big hail somewhere in southern Michigan today. It finally got DC, a pretty large storm timeline between 5 and 10 p.m. We could have upwards of golf ball size hail of any of the storms that do make it by the Washington, D.C. area. And this is potentially multiple rounds. So I'll show you guys in the future radar in just a moment. We could have a round this afternoon, and another round later this evening when the storms get over here. Will Buffalo, New York see any of these storms? I think it'll stay to your south, possibly Erie, Pennsylvania is probably going to be the farthest north in the Great Lakes, the Lake Erie section. We'll see today. Let's see. We need it east OKC. Yeah, man, that's for sure. That is the truth. Like, it's surprising. Somebody asked about Abilene as well, that we're not seeing too much in the Southern Plains right now. That is looking like it's going to change, though. So just hold tight. I know it's kind of strange seeing this activity up in the Great Lakes. Usually you're seeing that after storm season's over, so you might be afraid, but don't worry. This is still going to be going. And yes, the stream is on YouTube as well. Oh, that's somebody on Hill Trace responding. Never mind. So anyway, so I have a lower chance here for DC. Honestly, I think it's more of a moderate chance of seeing at least 1-inch hail based on how the models have been trending over the course of this morning. I think we could see some storms very likely somewhere in the DC metro. Includes Baltimore, includes Arlington, that whole really densely populated area, so we'll be watching that super carefully. They had a pretty good year last year. This could be the start of another good year across the Great Lakes. Here's that wind forecast for today. Again, no matter what happens, there will be storms that congeal into a squall line. That's going to be more of a wind threat this evening, much later this evening, so a little bit more downstream. So that's why I like Pittsburgh and Columbus, Ohio, both in that more moderate chance of some strong winds. And any of those winds, anything could be 65 to 70 miles per hour. Somebody asked about Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. Not today, and there's a very small chance tomorrow. So, and I mean very small chance. So, for the most part, I think Dallas, Fort Worth, you guys are going to have to kind of wait till the next system kicks out a little bit later here. So, lower end chance for some winds across the DC area, Virginia Beach, or by Raleigh. Again, that's just kind of the lack of storm coverage versus off to the north, Ohio and Michigan. I think we're going to see quite a bit of hail and wind today. So, here we go. Here's that future radar. We're starting off here in the Great Lakes region, and you can see those storms forming this afternoon. Explosive development, again, especially in south central sections of Michigan, where places like Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, Lansing, all those cities there within Michigan, all at risk of seeing some big-time storms today. And then that continues into northern sections of Ohio as well, so like Cleveland, Columbus, and and it points to the east, and even over by Pittsburgh. I know someone asked about Pittsburgh as well. I think Pittsburgh could see some pretty big storms today, possibly as well. This specific run of the models isn't really favoring Chicago a whole lot, but it's been kind of on and off for this afternoon. So we'll be watching it super carefully. It really just kind of comes down to where those storms form. If they form in Wisconsin, south central Wisconsin, then we have a much better chance of seeing some stuff going on in Chicago. So we'll watch that. We'll obviously go live with any sort of big storms that happen this afternoon and this evening. We're going to shift a little bit to the south and east to the mid-Atlantic states, and you can see a couple isolated storms in Virginia, and then a lot more activity in the Maryland area, and then a second wave of storms coming in. That's going to be in the late night hours. So it's looking like we could see potentially a couple rounds of storms in and around DC, and we could actually see another round of maybe wind-producing storms in the evening. So, and somebody said Indianapolis looking for some hail today. It might stay off to your north. I mean, if you're looking at the future radar right now, you can see the storms further to your northeast, like Fort Wayne, I'd say, have a much better chance of hail than Indianapolis. It's not impossible. We could see storms, push a little further to the west and to the south, and that could put Indy in risk, but I think your best chance in the state of Indiana will be along the northern sections from about Fort Bend to Fort Wayne. Do we have a chance for a 5-star in OKC this year? I mean, yeah, don't worry. The peak season here in Oklahoma usually is more second half April through May anyway. I mean, that would probably be your prime time for like the big time events. That's typically where we see them. I mean, the last couple of years it seems to be that last week of March, but hey, you know what, this year it's looking like it's going to be shaping up to be a little bit different. So that's the future radar for these two areas for just today. And here's our forecast for tomorrow, and this nice little surprise for I think a lot of you folks who watched the video yesterday. I said it was more of a wind risk. Well, things are kind of trending up more towards the hail risk for your Wednesday. Another northwest flow event similar to what we're seeing today. We could see some big hail over in Tennessee, Memphis, Nashville, even up towards St. Louis. We could see some big time activity. I got that moderate risk already, upwards of tennis ball size hail. This is all conditional to see how things today play out, and then we can see things going over to the next day. Sorry, I'm reading the comments at the same time as Derek's doing a pretty good job of answering a lot of questions popping up as I'm talking here. We could see some storms in North Carolina tomorrow. Again, very conditional to what happens overnight tonight. If we have a really strong squall line pushing through early in the morning tomorrow across North Carolina, you're probably not going to see any hail. And then, yes, somebody asking about DFW, there is a small chance. The hail size potential here is very just preliminary for Texas. It's a very small risk, a very conditional risk for your Wednesday. That extends all the way from the Rio Grande all the way up to Texarkana, so that includes places like San Antonio and even possibly Dallas, but that's going to really be conditional. We're going to kind of have to see it. This might not even be there tomorrow, so very low-end risk right now, and I didn't bother putting in the hail size potential because if anything does happen, to be like one storm. So that's what we're looking at on your Wednesday. Here's your future radar. I focused it only within the Midwest here in Mississippi River Valley, and you see those storms, all isolated storms. The ones that really get my attention are the ones in Illinois and that big boy in Missouri. That's where you'd be seeing the potential for some really big hail. Okay, yeah, Derek's talking about some stuff there. Yeah, cold front tries to slow a little bit. I wouldn't say cold fronts are slowing this time of year. We're going to have a pretty powerful cold front come ripping through, and that's going to complicate things for the next few days. But my looking ahead, this is jumping straight to the weekend. So basically what you see here, the big red L over Arizona, this is what we call a cutoff low pressure. So what you need to have a lot of severe weather in the plains and the southeast and everything is you have a big trough of low pressure, a big trigger mechanism for storms to kick across the eastern two-thirds of the country. What's happening for the rest of this week and causing lots of uncertainty going into the weekend and even into next week is we have a low-pressure system. Instead of moving quickly across the country, it's just kind of stuck in Arizona and California. Now, some of the models, the European model specifically, is leaning towards the storm will eject or start pushing across the country at the beginning of the weekend, and by Sunday it's going to be moving slow enough where we could see a pretty significant looking severe weather event across the southeast on your Easter Sunday. A couple other models are going kind of too fast, but they seem to be trending a little bit slower, so we're watching that super carefully. If it trends slow enough, we can get more moisture return, so you get more warm, moist air coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, and that could even potentially put the southern plains like Oklahoma and Texas into play for Saturday, but that is still a lot of just hypotheticals coming out of there. So we'll be watching this for the rest of this week, but we have a lot to potentially look over today and tomorrow. So it's April. We're starting to get a little bit more active. The overall pattern isn't super favorable for a lot of big time severe weather events. However, we're still managing to squeak out some weird severe weather potential. Again, the setup today and tomorrow, if any of you guys are a bit more weather savvy and the kind of weather nerd, it's a strange setup. So we'll be here and doing all of the big events that happen. We'll do any live coverage, of course, and if you guys do those hail dances good enough, maybe we'll have a 5-star map, and we'll try to figure out some way for Derek to show off his green pants if we can arrange something like that, if that happens today. So follow us here on Facebook, hit see first as always, and don't ever miss a post. And of course, when we have big time severe weather, we'll be going live, so keep an eye on your notifications and a star page or whatever you have to do on Facebook for that. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram as well, simply at HailTrace. Any other comments, questions, concerns, you need to set up a training, your first time here watching us, you want more information, give us a call. We don't bite. We'll happily answer your phone call at 855-334-4245. If you don't like talking on the phone, no big deal. Email us at info@hailtrace.com, or you can even message us through intercom on our website, hailtrace.com. I think Derek's been on here and he's been answering questions pretty regularly for everybody, so I think we are good to go here. So yeah, I think we're actually all right. So we'll be back later. Again, hopefully we'll be back for some more live coverage this afternoon to this evening. It's a pretty interesting looking severe weather potential for today and even into tomorrow. And again, somebody might see some Easter egg size hail on Easter Sunday. So we'll be watching that super carefully and keeping you guys up to date through the rest of this week. I'll talk to you guys later, and if I don't see you, I'll see you tomorrow at 12 p.m. like we do every single day. See you guys later.